First story. Am I the a-hole? Won't be home for Christmas. My wife and I have 3 young children. One is under 1 year. We have lived on the opposite coast from my family for the duration of my marriage and children having years. We have made the effort to fly ourselves and children home every Christmas except one where my wife had just had our second, during COVID. We also usually come at least one other time a year. We have room to host family and friends in our home, and have always welcomed all guests. This year, we have been home 5 times for various reasons: funerals, Easter, weddings, etc. We were home within the last month, and I got sick with some kind of virus and my kids got it from me when we returned home. We are just now starting to feel better. Additionally, money is tight this year, because of my job and wife taking maternity leave for our third. Tickets to fly home were more than both of us currently have in our bank accounts. We have not taken a vacation this year, only flown home for the 5 trips. I told my family that we were not going to be able to make it home this year, and that we were sorry. I was already very sad about the situation and embarrassed that my finances couldn't cover the trip. But I knew we had already been many times this year to visit. The response was hurtful. I was told this was poor planning on my part, and that I should have skipped an earlier visit instead, that my mother puts a big effort in the holiday, and it wasn't fair to change the plan this late in the year. My mother offered to loan me the money to fly, but I told her that I still have not even bought any gifts for my kids or wife, and that we already have accrued some credit card debt this year. My brother also doubled down and said this was an impulsive decision, and that from an outsider's perspective, we seem like we have enough money, and that this was news to them. I am really angry and am struggling with what to do. Am I the a-hole? Comment A. Not the a-hole. You don't go, and you let them be mad. They don't have to suffer the consequences of you going. They don't have to pay back money they don't even have for a trip they don't really want to go on. You will be missed, but nothing bad will happen. Agree with them. Tell them it was poor planning on your part. Then make sure that you don't go all year, and that way you can afford to go next Christmas. You have an excellent reason to say no all year long. Comment B. Not the a-hole. You don't have to justify yourselves. If your finances won't stretch this year, then that is the end of it. Christmas shouldn't be about getting into debt and making the new year depressing. I'm sure your mother does put in a lot of effort for the holidays, but ask her where she used to go before she was your mother. Was there someone who always did Christmas? When did it move to her to be the host? Remind her that she was in your place once, a young family, making your own family things. I'm sure she disappointed someone at some time around not going to some event. As we grow older, have our own families, etc., things change, traditions end and begin. Things can't stay the same way forever. Comment C. Not the a-hole. Your home is on the opposite coast. You don't have the money. That's the reality. Just because they don't understand or believe it, doesn't make it less true. Have a good holiday at home with your family and don't feel guilty. You've been there 5 other times this year. How often have they been out to see you? Comment D. Not the a-hole. You have your own family, your wife and 3 children. You've already made more than enough trips home to visit your extended family, in addition to not being able to afford the trip. Stay home, enjoy the time with the wife and kids. Your mom, although possibly well-meaning, should accept your answer for not accepting the loan of the money to fly there, and your brother is just sticking his nose in where it doesn't belong. Just because it looks like someone is affluent, does not mean that they are. Comment E. Not the a-hole. You just returned from visiting. To put so much weight on a single day is bizarre to me, especially since travel is also so much more expensive during the holidays. Yes, tomorrow's not guaranteed, but if the fates allow, you with your spouse and littles can visit another time. You guys can Zoom, Teams video visit on the day if you all want to see each other. Next story. Am I the a-hole here for threatening to divorce my wife if she didn't become a proper homemaker in the next month? My wife and I have been married for 4 years. I'm 33 and male, and she's 32. Her name is Steph. Steph is a stay-at-home wife, and since we got married, she has been incredibly inconsistent with household labor. I work a physically demanding job, and it would really help if Steph could at least cook dinner more than once or twice a week. Instead, she sits at the dinner table, hunched over her phone for hours a day. She's completely addicted to it, but she refuses to even have a conversation about this. Now, about twice a year, I have an opportunity to visit a foreign country for work. The nature of the work is to supervise construction and instruct the workers there. The compensation for these trips is always fantastic, and Steph is appreciative when I go because I bring home a pretty fat paycheck after. 3 weeks ago, I was about to depart for 2 weeks on such a trip. At around 10 a.m., I texted Steph and said that time was tight, but I'd be home at 12:30 to pick up my luggage. I asked her if she would make me something for lunch and she agreed to do so. I emphasized that I had about 10 minutes to stuff my face and then get to the airport. At 11 a.m., I texted her again, saying I'd be home as planned at 12:30. Again, she said okay. At 12 p.m., I texted her saying that I was leaving. I walked in the door at exactly 12:30, only to find her sitting at the dinner table, hunched over her phone. When I walked in, she gave me this bewildered look. She had done literally nothing. Nothing was cooking. Steph stood up in a panic and said she'd start making me lunch, but I told her that it was pointless. She sheepishly apologized, and I responded, "Don't say sorry. Just be less effing useless." This made her very upset. I just picked up my luggage, left, and went to the airport. I did manage to pick up some food at the airport, but I really would have liked a home-cooked meal before eating out every day for 2 weeks. I got home last week, and Steph was still angry. She said that what I said to her was over the top. I asked what she had been doing those 2 weeks, and she insisted that she was super busy, see, Instagram and Netflix. I gave her an ultimatum, that she had 1 month, until 1/10, to get her crap together and be a proper homemaker. I told her that if she couldn't, I was going to divorce her. Steph was super upset, and for the past week, she has been sulking, see, Instagram and Netflix. She told her family about it, and her mother basically blamed me for Steph's lack of direction in life. I know it's nonsense that a 32-year-old woman needs to have her hand held to do anything, but was I being ridiculous with my ultimatum? Comment A. Why can't she go back to work? Why does she have to stay home? I think it's fair to say if you're not going to do the duties of a stay-at-home wife, then you need to work. Comment B. I came into this thinking you were going to be the a-hole, that maybe you're complaining about how she cooks and cleans or something. But reading that she only makes 2 meals a week and didn't even bother preparing you one last lunch on your last day in town when you specifically asked her to, and gave her a heads up twice that you were on your way home. Not the a-hole. The fact that she was glued to her phone makes this even worse, because phones have clocks on them, and if she knows she loses track of time easily, she could have set an alarm for 12 and had something ready for you easily by 12:30. Comment C. Not the a-hole, but you unfortunately chose language that will make it very easy for her to paint you as the villain. Calling someone effing useless usually doesn't bode well in your favor. Be wary of how she'll paint you. You can acknowledge that you didn't use the best wording, but that your feedback still stands as valid criticism. In a relationship, it takes 2 partners to show up for each other, and right now, she isn't showing up for you. Comment D. Not the a-hole. It sounds like you don't have any kids. If her entire scope of responsibilities is to be a stay-at-home wife aka a homemaker, then her responsibilities are to keep the home cooking, cleaning, etc. I don't believe in getting a free ride to sit around on your bum all day going nothing and contributing little while someone else finances your life. Comment E. Not the a-hole. Considering you're the sole provider, it was pretty messed up on her end to not even take 5 minutes to make you a quick sandwich that day. If she has an iPhone, then her screen time should tell you what she's really prioritizing over helping out. I don't think you're in the wrong, and if her behavior doesn't change at all, then that's a telltale sign she doesn't care. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents that I don't want to live with them during visits? I, 26 female, grew up in a very toxic environment in my home. My parents got married young, and my mother got pregnant with me within the year of their marriage. They were definitely not ready for a child, and they didn't live near any family. My mother had to leave the job to take care of me, and she has hated my father ever since for that, which created a super toxic environment growing up. Every argument ended with the fact that she had to give up her career, and how miserable life has become since then. She would say some pretty harsh stuff to me too regularly, blaming me for everything that is wrong in her life. I moved out as soon as I turned 18 and pretty much only visited for holidays. I have stayed with them whenever I visit for holidays, but this year my husband and I decided to stay separately because we don't want our 1-year-old to be around all the daily arguments and blame game. My parents and cousins have called me as a whole for telling my parents that, according to them, a 1 year can anyway barely understand what is happening, and it is just for a week, and I only visit them during this Christmas. We spend all the other holidays with my husband's family. I don't want to do anymore. Pretty much every family member of mine is on my parents' side. Comment A. Not the a-hole. You're doing what's best for your baby and yourself. You grew up in a toxic home, and it's completely fair that you don't want your child around that. Even if they're little, they can feel tension, and it's not healthy. Your family might not get it, but that doesn't make you wrong. You're still visiting, just not staying with your parents, which is a fair choice. You're putting your child first, and that's what matters. Comment B. Not the a-hole. It won't get any easier, so do it now. Next year or the year after, when your child is old enough to understand, they'll tell you it was fine last year. Why change it now? There will always be an excuse. Draw and defend your boundaries now. Your family is so accustomed to the toxicity they will probably never understand, but you have to put yourself and your child first. Comment C. The 1-year-old might barely understand what's happening, but they can absolutely understand there's a fight going on and that people are angry or upset or devastated. That they can't understand what the fight is about does not make it better. If anything, it makes it worse. Cousins need to keep their uninformed noses out of your business, not the a-hole. Comment D. Not the a-hole. Your child will most definitely feel the tension and react because of the hostility. Your mom has had 20 years to get back into her career and move on from the anger she still is holding on to. Plus, it sounds like your parents need some therapy to learn how to better deal with each other if they are going to continue to settle to stay together. They are more concerned with the appearance of you not being there than the actual problems they'll cause your child, and I personally wouldn't even want to go for longer than a few hours of a visit if I had to deal with this. Comment E. It seems that it is time for you and your husband to start your own traditions in your own home with friends who have goodwill towards you. Next story. My 33 female, 11-year-old daughter is really into dolls, specifically Cry Baby and Baby Alive dolls. She's not an age regressor, she just genuinely enjoys playing with them. Last Christmas, my sister, 38 female, and her kids came over for a sleepover to open some presents with us since their dad was out of town. My daughter was really excited about the dolls she received, but her younger cousins weren't happy about it and tried to take them from her. Instead of telling them to stop, my sister told me that my daughter was too old for dolls and that her kids deserved them more. I refused to give the dolls away and put them in my daughter's room to keep them safe. That night, while my daughter was asleep, her cousin snuck into her room and took the dolls. When my daughter woke up and noticed they were missing, she was upset. I called my sister, and she again said my daughter was too old for them and that her kids had a better right to the dolls. I told my daughter to stay at home, and I left to go to my sister's house by myself. When I arrived, I demanded that she tell me where the dolls were, or I would report it as theft. After some back and forth, I got the dolls back, went home, and gave them to my daughter. My sister was calling me a horrible person, and I ended up blocking her. So, am I the a-hole for going this far to get my daughter's dolls back? Comment A. Not the a-hole, they belong to your daughter. It would be no different if an adult stole something. She stole from your daughter. Comment B. Not the a-hole, your sister teaches her kids it's okay to steal. Sad. Low contact or no contact? You decide. Comment C. Not the a-hole. Should have taken one for the dad who had his teens raid his brother's house over stolen Lego. Those teenagers even managed to successfully steal the dog. You wanna act like theft is fair game, then it's on. Comment D. Not the a-hole here, but your sister is one. Not only is she teaching her children to be thieves, she is also condoning thieves. What is she going to do when, not if, she sees those children in metal bracelets? Comment E. Not the a-hole. Your sister is a thief. It's none of her business whether or not your child is too old to be playing with the dolls. That's between you and your kid. It has nothing to do with her, and it certainly doesn't make it okay to steal property from her niece. Next story. Am I the a-hole for accepting inheritance from my deadbeat father? I 19 male barely remember my real father. The last memory I had was that he was yelling at my mother and I was maybe 6 and hiding under the kitchen table. He was a terrible man with an alcohol problem. One day he fled the country and was never seen again. My mother met my stepfather, who is a great man, and raised me as his own kid. Just a few months ago I received a formal notice from my real father, telling me that my grandmother, his mother, had died, and he didn't expect me to go to the funeral, as I did not even know the lady, but decided to pass her apartment to me, as he was never part of my life. It is least he can do. He doesn't expect me to contact him or anything. He wrote that he knows how terrible he was and nothing can excuse that. I was excited about the fact that I could start my life way easier and told my family about it, and they got really mad at me, telling me how terrible person he was and all, and that is all true. My mother said that he is probably using that to contact me, or even worse, use it to claim that he took care of me, so I have to take care of him when he is old. So I talked with a pro bono lawyer about it, and she told me that accepting an inheritance can't be considered paying child support, which he never did, so if I decide to accept the apartment, it does not oblige me to anything. My parents are still mad at me. My stepfather says I should honor my mother's wish and not accept it, while I believe that it would be stupid to say no and deny a chance to start my life a bit easier than others my age. Am I the a-hole for accepting that apartment? Comment A. Honey, if anyone needs to accept an inheritance, it's the child of a deadbeat dad. Be cautious. I can understand your parents' concerns. I also wonder if they're worried you might feel some care for your father because he let you know of the inheritance and it will lead you to seek a relationship with him. Remind them they are the best parents in the world and you have no desire to replace them. Happy life, my dear. Comment B. Not the a-hole. Make sure you cover all your legal bases and make sure bio dad doesn't have any kind of legal loopholes to have access to the apartment once you take ownership. Make sure you can afford any taxes and insurance on the place. Then take it. Never give up organic opportunities just out of spite. Life is hard enough. Sounds like yours was worse than most. No reason to let pride or misguided righteousness hold you back further. Comment C. Not the a-hole. I understand your mum's concerns, and it's important that you reassure her that you won't let that guy worm his way into your life, but at the end of the day it's not reasonable to expect you to refuse a free apartment with no perceptible strings attached. Comment D. Not the a-hole. Talk to your mother that you love and respect her, and that this inheritance is in no way diminishing all the love and support she has given you. That you consider it an inheritance from your grandmother that you didn't even get to know because your father was such a worthless waste of space. And that you have no intention of ever contacting your father except to remind him of his outstanding child support to your mother. Comment E. Not the a-hole. Yes, he hurt you and your mother, and this apartment will not change that. However, it can give you a huge advantage as you grow into your adult years. Random thought, but this story is giving me vibes of the movie Coco. A father abandoned the family and they all decided to hold a grudge over it to the detriment of the child because the grudge was more important.
Thank you for hearing in. Consider like and subscribe the video if you enjoy it. See you next time.